Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveils Skyroot built India's first private rocket, Vikram First, capable of placing satellites into orbit. US President Donald Trump calls shooting of 2 National Guard troops an act of terror. Orders to deploy 500 additional troops in Washington. The suspect identified as an Afghan national.
This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror.
Trump advises Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi not to provoke China on Taiwan, reports the Wall Street Journal. And death toll in massive Hong Kong apartment fire rises to 44. Hundreds missing. 3 suspects arrested. Efforts to tackle the blaze on war footing. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the Indian space startup Skyroot's Infinity Campus in Hyderabad via video conferencing on Thursday. Prime Minister Modi also unveiled Skyroot's first orbital rocket, Vikram 1, with the capacity to launch satellites to orbit. The state-of-the-art facility will have around 200,000 square feet of workspace for designing, developing, integrating and testing multiple launch vehicles with a capacity to build 1 orbital rocket every month. Addressing the event, Prime Minister Modi said that the government opened the space sector to private innovation, introduced a new space policy, connected startups with the industry.
सरकार ने स्पेस सेक्टर को प्राइवेट इनोवेशन के लिए ओपन किया। नई स्पेस पॉलिसी तैयार की गई। हमने स्टार्टअप्स को, इंडस्ट्री को इनोवेशन के साथ जोड़ने का प्रयास किया। हमने इन स्पेस की स्थापना की, अपने स्टार्टअप्स के लिए इसरो की फैसिलिटीज और टेक्नोलॉजी को उपलब्ध कराया। यानी भारत ने बीते 6-7 वर्षों में ही अपने स्पेस सेक्टर को एक ओपन, कोऑपरेटिव और इनोवेशन ड्रिवन इकोसिस्टम में बदल दिया है।
Skyroot is India's leading private space company, founded by Pawan Chandana and Bharat Dhaka, both alumni of Indian Institute of Technology and former scientists of ISRO turned entrepreneurs. In November 2022, Skyroot launched its suborbital rocket Vikram S, becoming the first Indian private company to launch a rocket to space. The rapid rise of private space enterprises is a testament to the success of the transformative reforms carried out by the government in the last few years, reinforcing India's leadership as a confident and capable global space power. India's indigenously designed and built stealth frigate, Indian naval ship INS Sahadre, on Wednesday arrived in Manila, the Philippines, as part of its operational deployment in the Indo-Pacific, underscoring India's commitment to enhancing maritime cooperation in the region. The visit follows the completion of multilateral and bilateral naval exercises, including Malabar 2025, Oz Index 2025, GEMX 25, and a maiden bilateral exercise with the Republic of Korea Navy. Prior to its port call in Manila, INS Sahadre conducted joint drills with the Philippine Navy, focusing on tactical communications, navigation and maneuvering. The visit board search and seizure operations and flying operations to refine mutual professional understanding. The deployment of INS Sahadre highlights India's growing naval cooperation with the Philippines. It reflects New Delhi's commitment to promoting peace, security and stability in the Indo-Pacific, aligned with India's Act East policy and the vision of Sagar. Sagar stands for security and growth for all in the region. India and Sri Lanka carried out exercise Mitra Shakti 2025 in Belagavi, Karnataka, bringing their armies together for 2 weeks of coordinated tactical drills. The joint training focused on sub-conventional operations under a UN mandate, with the troops practicing counter-terrorism maneuvers and semi-urban combat scenarios. The exercise strengthened interoperability and deepened mutual trust between the two forces, highlighting their shared commitment to regional peace and stability. Soldiers from India's Rajput Regiment and Sri Lanka's Gajaba Regiment trained side by side, reflecting growing partnership shaped by years of defence cooperation. The exercise concluded with both sides reaffirming their resolve to enhance operational readiness. President of India Draupadi Murmu addressed the inaugural session of the 3rd edition of Indian Army's seminar, Chanakya Defence Dialogue 2025 at Manekshaw Centre in the Delhi Cantonment region on Thursday. At the event, the President emphasised that the Indian Army is undergoing major transformation to remain future-ready and mission-capable, and expressed confidence that these reforms will advance India's self-reliance. She also highlighted the Army's efforts to invest in youth through education, NCC expansion and sports to instill patriotism and build strong human capital.
The Army is transforming itself through quantifiable, deliverable under the decade of transformation. It is reforming structures, reorienting doctrines and redefining capabilities to the future ready and mission capable across all domains. I am confident that these defense reforms will help in making India self-reliant. I am happy to know that the Army is investing in youth and human capital. It is instilling patriotism in youth through education, NCC expansion and sports.
Next, updates on the International Film Festival of India. Day 8 of the 56th edition of IFFI witnessed a lot of action, and it will include screenings and gala premieres of Andhra King, Claudia and Mansha. Apart from that, there will be masterclasses led by leading filmmakers, including Nagarjun. The day will begin with the launch of commemorative stamp honouring the maker K. Vaikunt. The day will be filled with red carpet walks led by film cast of the films being premiered on the second last day of IFFI. Next, we take a look at other stories making news today in India. The Commission for Air Quality Management has revoked the restrictions under Stage 3 of the Graded Response Action Plan (GRAP) in Delhi NCR region. Curbs under the first and second stage of GRAP will be intensified in the capital and surrounding areas. The Air Quality Index in Delhi has shown gradual improvement over the past few days and was recorded at 327 in the morning on Thursday. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari along with Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Bhai Patel inspected the under construction 6th lane Shamlaji Mota Chiloda stretch of National Highway 48. He reviewed key structures and called for faster completion of pending work. Nitin Gadkari also directed action against delays and emphasized road safety and smooth travel quality experience. UIDAI has deactivated over 2 crore Aadhaar cards of deceased people as part of a routine cleanup to prevent misuse for fake accounts, ghost pensions and other fraud. The verification process uses death records and state inputs with rare wrongful deactivations, easily reversible through biometric authentication. And Thursday marks the final day of the India International Trade Fair, drawing crowds for last-minute shopping, exhibitions and pavilions showcasing innovation, handicrafts, global trade participation. Organizers expect a busy day on Thursday as attendees make the most of last-minute shopping, networking opportunities and cultural displays before the fair concludes. You're watching DD India Live, still to come on the show. Donald Trump says South Africa will not get 2026 G20 invite. Peru sentences ex-president Vizcarra to 14 years in prison for corruption. And Guinea-Bissau military officers declare taking total control of the country. Baramulla is set in Kashmir. It's a chilling investigation of missing children in the valley, but with a twist.
We wanted to shed light on that topic because it is reality. It's not something that is not fiction.
हर kidnapping ransom के लिए नहीं होती है.
So Gulnar goes into the other world, the world of shadows. You cannot explain it logically.
We were just more concerned that we should be able to fit everything, and that took, I think, 2 years.
And I'm really grateful that the audience right now is calling it that a new age horror has really been born in this country right now with Baramulla.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Tanvi Taneja. The third India-Indonesia Defence Ministers' Dialogue is underway in New Delhi. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is co-chairing the event alongside Indonesia's Defence Minister S. Samuddin. India's Ministry of Defence in a statement said that the two ministers will review regional security developments, discuss multilateral issues and explore new areas to deepen bilateral defence cooperation. The Indonesian minister is on a two-day visit to India from November 26th and 27th. The minister further noted that the visit reflects the growing momentum in India-Indonesia defence engagement and signals a shared commitment to expand the partnership. This interaction comes months after the President of Indonesia's visit to India in January, further reinforcing the strategic importance both countries attach to defence ties. On to the US now. President Donald Trump called it an act of terror to the shooting of National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. He also mentioned that the suspect has been identified and believed to have entered into the U.S. territory from Afghanistan in 2021. Trump called for his government to re-examine Afghan immigrants who entered the United States during the former President Joe Biden's administration.
This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity.
Earlier on Wednesday, 2 U.S. National Guard soldiers were shot near the White House in Washington. The shootings took place at the Farragut West Metro Station, 2 blocks from the White House, and in mid-afternoon when the streets and nearby businesses were packed. FBI Director Kash Patel said both soldiers, part of a militarized anti-crime deployment around the United States ordered by Trump, were in critical condition. Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser called it a targeted shooting by a single gunman.
Before we get started, on a somber note, we had, and some of you may have seen this on your phones or on social media, but apparently there was a shooting outside the White House just a couple of hours ago. And we're still learning everything. We still don't know the motive. There's a lot that we haven't yet figured out. But what we do know is that a couple of National Guardsmen were injured in the line of duty.
So in the wake of Wednesday's shooting, Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth said on Wednesday that President Donald Trump has asked for 500 additional troops to be deployed to Washington, D.C.
President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army, to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful. The drop in crime has been historic. The increase in safety and security has been historic. But if criminals want to conduct things like this, violence against America's best, we will never back down. President Trump will never back down. That's why the American people elected him. America and our warriors, our National Guardsmen, are strong.
On the geopolitical front, President Trump announced that South Africa will not be invited to take part in next year's G20 summit in Florida after Washington boycotted the Leaders' Summit in Johannesburg last week, which the African nation called a punitive measure against it. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa's office called Trump's post regrettable. Ramaphosa said that since the US delegation was not present at the summit last week, instruments of the G20 presidency were duly handed over to a US embassy official at the headquarters of South Africa's Department of International Relations and Cooperation. Since taking office for a second time in January, Trump has been critical of the South African government's domestic and foreign policies. Trump has repeatedly alleged that South Africa's black majority government persecutes its white minority and that there was a genocide of white farmers in the country, claims that have widely been discredited. In a White House meeting in May, Trump confronted South Africa's leader with false claims of white genocide. Trump said on Wednesday that his administration was going to stop all payments and subsidies to South Africa effective immediately. Trump signed an executive order in February to cut financial assistance for South Africa, citing disapproval of its land policy. Its genocide case at the International Court of Justice against Washington's ally, Israel. And next, updates on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia said on Wednesday that the ongoing talks to end the conflict in Ukraine were serious, after earlier welcoming parts of a new US plan to halt the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Russian officials cautioned that an agreement remained distant, with US envoy Steve Witkoff expected in Moscow next week for more discussions. In televised comments, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the negotiations were ongoing and the process was serious. Washington has not released the updated plan, which President Trump described as a refined version of an earlier 28-point outline dismissed by Kiev and European governments as overly favorable to Moscow. Trump and US Army Secretary Dan Driscoll, who has met Russian representatives, signaled cautious optimism. Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov said that the draft needed deeper evaluation, noting that some points were positive while others required expert review. A Peruvian court on Wednesday sentenced former President Martin Vizcarra to 14 years in prison after finding him guilty of taking bribes years before he took office, adding to a list of former leaders jailed for corruption. According to the verdict, Vizcarra accepted bribes equivalent to $676,000 from construction firms in exchange for public work contracts while serving as governor of the southern Moquegua region from 2011 to 14. Throughout the trial, which began last October, Vizcarra denied the charges, claiming he was a victim of political persecution. He came to power in 2018 after his predecessor resigned and was ousted 2 years later by Congress amid graft investigations. 3 other former presidents are also in jail. Alejandro Toledo and Ollanta Humala are both serving time for corruption convictions. Pedro Castillo is being held while on rebellion charges. Military officials in the West African country of Guinea-Bissau said that they had seized total control of the coup-prone nation on Wednesday, arresting its president, closing its borders and suspending its electoral process 3 days after general elections. Earlier, heavy gunfire erupted near the presidential palace as soldiers secured key access roads. General Dennis Nkanha said a joint command of all armed forces would govern the country until further notice. Embalo, considered the front-runner for re-election, was being held at military headquarters, along with the Chief of Staff and the Interior Minister, officials said. The army claimed it had uncovered a destabilization plot involving local drug traffickers and illicit weapons. The military halted the electoral process, shut media outlets, imposed a curfew and emptied Bissau's streets.
Until
the entire situation is duly clarified and conditions are restored for a full return to constitutional normality, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order has decided to immediately remove the President of the Republic, close until further notice all institutions of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau suspend until further notice the activities of all media outlets, immediately suspend the ongoing electoral process, close land and maritime borders and the national airspace, establish a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m.
A descoberta de plano.
US President Donald Trump advised Japan's Prime Minister Takaichi not to provoke China over Taiwan's sovereignty. As reported by the Wall Street Journal, the advice followed Xi Jinping's call with Donald Trump, where Taiwan was raised as a key issue. The row between Asia's two biggest economies began after Takaichi said that Tokyo could intervene militarily in any attack on the self-ruled island, which China claims as part of its territory. The WSJ report said that Trump was subtle and did not ask Takaichi to retract her remarks, but officials found the message worrying. China reacted sharply to her earlier comments, while Japan rejected Beijing's claims of rising crime against Chinese nationals. More from Asia, updates on the Hong Kong fire incident. Firefighters were still dousing a devastating fire on Thursday which ripped through a Hong Kong high-rise complex, killing at least 44 people and leaving hundreds missing, according to authorities. The inferno, the financial hub's worst in decades, took hold on Wednesday afternoon in an 8-building housing estate with 2,000 apartments, sending shockwaves throughout the city, which is some of the world's most densely populated and tallest residential blocks. According to police, 3 men were arrested in connection with the fire, and inflammable materials were left during maintenance work, which caused the blaze to spread rapidly beyond control. More from Asia. In Thailand, 3 days of torrential rain dumped record volumes in southern commercial hub of Hat Yai, flooding hospitals and stranding thousands on rooftops. At least 33 people have died in the flooding. Thai rescue workers waded through flood waters under the lights of emergency vehicles on Wednesday night, evacuating people. Thailand airlifted patients and flew critical supplies, including oxygen tanks, into the submerged southern city. The Thai military has mobilized both helicopters and even its lone aircraft carrier to deliver supplies and evacuate the sick. Floods have swept through 9 Thai provinces and 8 states in neighboring Malaysia for a second successive year, prompting both countries to evacuate nearly 50,000 people. And in sports news now, India delivered an impressive performance at the 25th Summer Deaf Olympics in Tokyo. Team India finished 6th with a total of 20 medals, including 9 gold, 7 silver and 4 bronze. Ukraine topped the medals table with 100 medals, followed by the USA with 36, while host nation Japan secured 3rd position with 51 medals. Shooter Mahit Sandhu, competing in her first Deaf Olympics, won 2 gold and 2 silver medals and proudly carried the Indian national flag at the closing ceremony. In karate, Loma Swain made history by becoming the first Indian to win a bronze medal. This year's performance marked a significant improvement from the previous Deaf Olympics in Brazil, where India won 16 medals. And that's it for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for news on the go, you can also download our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.